The Trey Young situation is one to be monitored, according to a friend of the program. So let's monitor right here on a trending edition of PHNX Suns. It's Erik and Steven coming to you live, or kind of not live, but still live from Studio K, presented by Circle K, here to talk to you about another superstar that might be on the move. Our friend, Flex from Jersey, formerly on the program, but still a very close friend of all of ours.
The
homie, says that he's hearing a lot of stuff out of Atlanta and Trae Young, saying he's not going to say anything else, but watch what's going on there, and said he's been hearing about some internal issues around that place for a while now. Still confused why Atlanta hasn't gotten that deal done already, but not surprised. Situation to monitor, as I noted back in June. Before we talk about if the Suns could swoop in, Steven, does it surprise you that just in general, we might be approaching the end of the Trae Young era in Atlanta?
No, it doesn't. And I was wondering, it felt like for me going into last season, the hourglass, those bees that were once promising had almost dwindled completely dry. And it felt like there was a need for change on both sides of that. Matter of fact, I even go to the season before last because they brought in Quinn Snyder. That felt like, to me, from the outside looking in, a nod towards, Trey, we're trying to figure things out. You bring in an offensive-minded coach that knows how to run a well-oiled machine. In addition to some of the other moves that they've made since they brought in Quinn, felt like they were trying to position themselves around Trey. And then you get this news from Flex, obviously. The first iteration in June, and then the second one coming a couple of days ago. Very surprising to me that it's kind of went that direction, considering everything that they've done in this offseason alone.
Yeah, Onse Salah, who is their new GM there, getting Kristaps Porzingis, right, for, almost basically nothing. Moving
the best
back
floor
in the
space and big that Trey has had.
For sure. Moving back in the draft to pick up Asen Newell, who is another big there that could be a rim-running threat with him, and then getting an unprotected New Orleans pick in 2026. Obviously having Reese Shea and Jalen Johnson and Dyson Daniels. It does honestly, if you're looking at Atlanta, it feels like maybe a team that's built most to insulate a lot of Trae Young's weaknesses, which is why I don't think Trae Young is going to get traded this offseason here. I think the earliest that I could see Trae Young getting traded is at this trade deadline once Atlanta gives this a run. Because at the end of the day, if Atlanta is a top 3, 4, 5 team in the East, and in an open Eastern Conference without a Boston who has a Jason Tatum who's injured, or an Indiana who Tyrese Halliburton is injured, right? And maybe the most open the East has been pre-LeBron, right? You probably want to at least give it a shot. And you know that you can get some value for Trae Young. But on the Suns side of things, getting an all-star, all-NBA caliber player to pair with Devin Booker.
The best point guard in the NBA.
Pure point guard in the NBA.
He's been at the past 3 years now. Yes.
Yeah. Is enticing. And while there would be for sure some weaknesses that you would need to cover up in a Devin Booker, Trae Young backcourt, would that be, before getting into what the Suns would have to give up, or if Atlanta would even want it, would Trae Young and Devin Booker be the best offensive backcourt in the NBA?
I think they will only be rivaled by everything that is Darius Garland and Donovan Mitchell. And to that point, and I'm bringing it up intentionally, I'm glad you asked that. This is not pre-recorded conversation. This is very much live. The Jordan Knott
it's technically pre-recorded, but we haven't talked. We were just talking about this for the first time.
Correct. The Jordan Knott in it all.
Yeah.
Last season, how similar to the Donovan Mitchell, Darius Garland backcourt is Trae Young and Devin Booker?
I'd say similar, but Trae Young is a better player than Darius Garland. And me personally, even though Book had a down season, if you're telling me over the next 5 years I could have one of them, I'm taking Devin Booker over Donovan Mitchell.
And I wouldn't be mad at you for that either. Point in asking that, figured out a lot of things in terms of the way that the offense was structured around those two last season. Obviously, the different front court pieces, that definitely matters. But a lot of the things that they did principle-wise established to put those two players in the best position they could be, not just offensively, but also on the defensive end of the floor. I imagine if they're looking at, okay, how can we best build a roster around Jordan Knott? Scour the league, see who might be available. Everybody in the league keeps an eye on tumultuous situations or situations trending in that direction. Trae Young probably the top of that list in terms of star-level talents that may become available right now. I imagine that's at least factored somewhat in their process in some capacity, stemming from everything that Jordan Knott showed to have, honestly, historic level of success on the offensive end of the floor with the Cavaliers last season.
Yeah, listen, you do this move, right? And we'll talk about what it would take for the Suns to be able to pull this off. And honestly, I don't know if they have the horses to do it because Trey Young will still demand a lot of value, but also we've seen stars demand their way to places. We saw Kevin Durant go for a value in a trade package that many deemed not worthy of his status, and maybe
we just saw him do it in Houston.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, right? Like, here's the thing. If you can get Trey Young next to Devin Booker, you do it, right? There's very few pieces on this roster that you should even hesitate to put into a package. That includes some of our favorites, some fan favorites, like a Ryan Dunn, like an Oso Iguodala, right? Like a Rasheer Fleming. I think Kaman Malawach and Devin Booker, your top 10 pick this year and your franchise leader. Those guys aren't going to be in the deal. I do think everybody else is on the table. But what works money-wise? Well, it's going to start with Jalen Green. All packages are going to start with Jalen Green. Unless Atlanta straight up says, we don't want Jalen Green, then maybe you can do like a Dylan Brooks, Grayson Allen, and a Royce O'Neal possibly. That does work. Those three. Mathematically it works. But you could do any one of those three. Brooks, Allen, O'Neal, along with Jalen Green for Trey Young. The money works. And then do the Suns have the picks? I think the picks is where it really comes into play. They have their 2026 first round pick. That's their own. They have 2 picks in the first round in 2027, 2029. That's the worst of them, Cleveland, Utah. So it's probably not going to be that great of a pick. And then they have their own 2030 first round pick and a second round pick from Denver in 2026. Okay. Not a lot of draft capital for the Phoenix Suns. Do you see realistically a combination of players and picks from the Suns that the Hawks would accept in a deal for Trey Young?
I do. I wonder how it stacks up with other competitors for Trey Young's facilities, but I do think the Suns can find the avenue to something that would appease the Atlanta Hawks in some capacity. And to your point, it might be a 3-team deal that sends Jalen Green potentially elsewhere within it all, but 2 players that had
I've heard that before.
It should feel very PTSD-esque for a lot of us that have been locked in. But I imagine 2 players that Quinn Snyder had at least a semblance of success with while he was with the Utah Jazz, Royce O'Neal, Grayson Allen. I imagine those 2 players would check off a box for everything that he's looking to establish in this kind of new rendition of the Atlanta Hawks. And that's where, from that point on, it kind of gets a little murky. You got to figure out how to make everything else work. But I think there are multiple avenues that could go about doing that.
So let's talk about other competitors. Okay, so obviously the Suns, we feel like should at least be involved and interested. What other teams would you look at and say, you know what? Trey Young, sure.
Well, there's just a lot of ambiguity with Boston right now.
Boston, I think, is up there.
And one thing Boston knows how to do is take a player's defensive deficiencies, insulate them with both principles and personnel. I can see that.
I think Orlando.
I thought about Orlando prior to the Desmond Bane
trade, yeah.
Since then, it feels like they're invested in Jalen Suggs being their one going forward, especially after trading Cole Anthony. So I feel a little less realistic for that just because especially Franz and Paolo both have the ball significantly a lot. What is Trey Young not going to really be doing is getting off the ball too much in that respect. So I can't see them doing it that much. Houston is interesting to me. They have the extension that they pushed back with Fred VanVleet.
Yeah.
They have that treasure trove of not having gave up. Obviously, Thompson is off the board, but Eason and Smith, they have those 2 pieces in addition to other draft pick compensation as well as Fred VanVleet, whose extension got pushed back. So they have ways they can go about getting there. Those are probably the 2 teams I look at most.
Okay, let's talk about Boston. Here's a package that I just threw together for Boston. Derek White, Sam Hauser, Peyton Pritchard, Hugo Gonzalez. Off the bat, that's a better player package than what the Suns can offer.
Yeah.
I like Jalen Green, but I think imagining a team with a defensive Derek White and Dyson Daniels as your backcourt.
And Jalen freaking Johnson.
And Jalen Johnson, Zachary Risachet, Porzingis, Onyeka Okongwu.
Yeah.
And the Celtics have their own first-round pick in 2026, 2027, 2028. San Antonio's first-round pick protected at the number 1 pick in 2028. Tough. Boston has their own first-round pick in 2030 and 2031. All of these can be unprotected. So Boston's package does clear what the Suns could offer. The other one you said is Houston, right? So let me just do this kind of off the top because I want to put this in perspective because as much as the Suns might want a player like Trae Young, it might not be the easiest for them to go and get that. Correct. So you can't trade Fred VanVleet until December. He's $25 million, almost 1,000, a little bit more than that. Trae Young is about $46 million. Okay, you can't trade Steven Adams till December.
Tari has a extension kicking in next season, and I think Jabari
just signed his extension as well. So, I mean, you're probably going to have to throw in a Reed Shepherd, and you're probably going to throw in a Tari Eason as well.
Still not hearing anything that they will start that with.
Jabari, Reed, and Tari would still not be enough for the Rockets to be able to take that on. They would still need to be $17 million over, so you'd have to include Fred VanVleet, but I think that Atlanta would be, that would be too much for Atlanta to take on. Atlanta could take on about $19 million. The Rockets need to give up about $17.4 million. Fred VanVleet makes about $25 million, okay? So you'd have to give up a Steven Adams who makes $14, okay? But do the Hawks want that? Probably not. And then some sort of minimum Josh Okogie. So it would be Jabari Smith, Reed Shepherd, Tari Eason, Steven Adams, Josh Okogie, plus picks.
I imagine.
And they have a lot of picks. I'll give them that. They do have a lot of picks. They have their own first-round pick in 2026, pick 1 through 4. If it goes below 4, it goes somewhere else, which, I mean, they're not going to have a top 4 pick, so then they don't have their first-round pick. They have Brooklyn's first-round pick in 2027, their own first-round pick in 2027, Phoenix's first-round pick in 2027, their own pick in 2028, Dallas's first-round pick in 29, Phoenix's first-round pick in 29, their own first-round pick in 2030, and their own first-round pick in 2031. So that would be more of a pick-heavy deal, but player-wise, I don't see them wanting a Jabari Smith or a Tari Eason, maybe Reed Shepherd because of the pedigree there, but he's right now he's not better than Peyton Pritchard.
I see Atlanta agreeing to the VanVleet part of it, to have a point guard to go in place of Trae, and then having multiple iterations of wing heavy lineups. So one of Jabari and Tari.
I think Jabari, because I can't do it on Spot Track because it won't let me trade them. But Jabari's at 22.3, Fred is at 25. I think that would work for the Hawks. Correct. So I think VanVleet and Jabari with a ton of picks would work for the Hawks.
That's the iteration I'm looking at.
And obviously, would you rather have that for Atlanta? A bunch of picks in those two? Yeah, I would agree.
So I imagine Houston can get fully fledged into that conversation. I also imagine Miami would be able to stake some claim in that as well. They don't have the best asset pool that they would be kind of going from, but a team that's been begging for a point guard of functioning capacity the last couple of years.
Yeah.
I imagine they would at least have a hand in contending for him.
Let's just see. This will be the last thing that we do here. Tyler Hero makes 31. He's probably going to be involved in the trade. You still need about $15 million worth of salary. Terry Rozier would make too much. Andrew Wiggins would make too much. Looking at a Haywood Highsmith to Atlanta and a Jovic to Atlanta. And I think that's still okay. So Hero, Highsmith, Jovic, we'll have to probably throw Khalil Ware in there. That would work. So those 4 players would work, plus Miami's draft capital. They cannot trade their first-round pick this year. They have it, but they can't trade it. They have their own lottery pick in 2027 that they could trade, but if you're trading for Trae Young, you're probably not getting that. They have their own first-round pick that they could trade in 29 and in 30 and in 31, which I don't even think you could trade all 3 back-to-back-to-back. Because I guess it depends on what apron you're in after you bring in Trae Young. That is maybe the first package that you look at and you go, maybe the Suns could do better that if they value Jalen Green more than Tyler Hero, and Jalen Green's younger and a different type of player.
Yep, for sure.
Moral of the story is it would take a lot for the Suns to be able to get that done.
And there will be competition.
But should they? At least try.
Not even hesitation.
Not even try. And could Trae Young demand to go to Phoenix to play with Devin Booker? Well, we know that players love Devin Booker. By the way, if you love Devin Booker and you don't know where he ranks in the NBA or you have strong opinions, check out our live show that we did earlier today on Thursday or whatever you're listening to this on PHNX Suns. We tiered the top 15 players in the NBA and figured out where Devin Booker lies among that. So make sure you check out that. Make sure you're subscribed to PHNX Sports to get all of Steven's film breakdowns, all of these trending mini podcasts. Make sure you're over on gophnx.com to read all of Gerald's writing and become a diehard today. Still $36 discount deal. Unless you're listening to this a little bit later, then maybe not. Maybe you missed it, but you still become a diehard today. If you're listening on audio, 5-star reviews go a long way. We'll continue to bring you the latest updates and breaking news for this team, rumors, everything. Shout out to our guy Flex from Jersey for putting us on and making sure we're all monitoring that Trey Young situation in Atlanta. So make sure you're monitoring PHNX Sports, and we'll see you around.
We all silly like the mayor.